Hi guys, this is TheRunningManZ. Thanks very much for checking out this video. This one is kind of a feedback video really, but I also just wanted to share it with you. I've had a few people on stream asking me why I'm not making Scum videos at the moment, or why I'm not streaming it. I thought I'd share a little bit of that with you. I want to be kind of open about where I'm at with the game right now. I'm really loving some of it. I really enjoy some of the survival sides of it. The fact that the server keeps your character and you're only on that server can be a bit frustrating, because you join a server, it's full, you play on it for 6 hours, the next day you come back, that server's empty, and so you have to start again. So I found it a little bit like I can never carry my journey on. Maybe once we get to some community servers that are regularly full, that'll be good, but as a streamer it's really hard to stay on the same server every day, because you'll just get stream sniped obviously. So it's kind of a shame that some of the official servers don't link in as far as like your character at least. I know that would have server hopping issues, but it's been kind of tricky because you're on a server that's full. Let's say you're on Europe #3. The next day you go and check, and Europe #3 doesn't even tell you how much ping it's got. There's nobody in it, or that doesn't tell you the player count, and when you can finally work it out, there's 3 people in it now. And so you can't go back in the server with 3 people on it and carry on your character where you built your shelter and whatnot. You end up having to start again. And I found that it's very repetitive in the fact that you're starting again. I built shelters on 4 or 5 different servers and storage boxes and got a bit of a foothold, got gear, put some stuff in the box. And then I've never been back on that server again because it's not full when I'm next ready to play. That might be improved with community servers. The main reason why I've stopped playing though is that as I've been doing those lives and I've been having that sort of time, like gearing up and so on, every character seems to end in a very similar way at the moment. It's a known problem with regards to the player lag and other things, but looking through my footage as I've been looking for the footage for this, I've come up with a couple of things that could be an issue. I think it's a decent feedback video. I want to make this clear. I really want Scum to be good. I think it's a really novel idea. There's some really cool features in it. I really want it to be good. So let's get that out of the way. I'm not trying to bash it. I want it to be popular. I want it to be good. That's good for me. It's good. Scum has been great for my YouTube channel. I've got some really good views on some of the Scum videos I've done lately. I really want it to be good. I want to get that clear. I'm not trying to bash it. I want it to succeed, right? But what I want to do is just share a couple of examples of how my characters are ending. If you've played for 3 or 4 hours in a survival game and they end like this, it doesn't take many of these deaths to start thinking, I'm going to play something else, you know. It's just a bit frustrating right now. I'm sure the player lag will get fixed, or at least it will improve. I hope it does. But along with that, there's some other things I want to talk about as well. So have a look at the couple of the deaths that I've had lately, and then we'll talk about some other things from there. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Gonna talk? Fucking holy desync. The fuck? No way! I have got other clips to show you, but I don't want to bore you with too many. I'll just show this back again. As you can see here, the guy kind of appears, right? He's not there, and then he's there in the corridor. There's none of coming him out of the door or anything like that. Now, I think I've got some kind of vague idea of what's going on here. I'm not a game developer, right? I can play video games. I enjoy that. I'm not a dev. I want to make that clear. It's very much easier to be a critic than a creator, you know. I don't create video games, you know. People that make video games are talented. I just play games and have a bit of fun, you know. So I'm not trying to be a dev. But I think what's going on here is something to do with the latency and the player lag, which is a problem on the server, but amplified by this camera technique that they use in Scum. Now, if you notice, I'm in first person through all of this, but it still applies the camera trickery that it uses for this third person camera technique that they use, whereby if a player isn't visible to you, he's invisible in the game, if you like. He's not rendered. So if someone's behind a door, they're not actually rendered on your client. As you open the door, the client renders the player and away they are. You know, you can see them. I think the issue with that is that sometimes when you open a door, there's nothing there for half a second and then they pop into view. You know, it's just lag. Maybe it's to do with server to client latency and their ping, your ping, and so on. But the problem is all video games have that, right? All video games, there's not a single open world game that doesn't have some latency and some player lag. On Unreal, we've got PUBG, we've got Ark, they have the same thing. Here on Scum, we've got the same engine with the same kind of latency issues, maybe a bit more because it's early doors. But this camera technique they're using seems to be amplifying it more so, because you've got latency and then the game deciding whether it should render the player in or not, which adds to the latency. I'm going to talk about it a bit more later. I've got some more examples. I want to talk about it in depth. However, I've got one more clip to share with you first. I just want to talk you through this one. I've got other examples of player log, but I want to show you this one because it's got something else related to it regarding spawns, and I think that's a pretty useful thing to talk about. So let's just have a look at this one first. Hello? Hello? The second guy ran away. The first guy I killed body kind of appeared in a weird place in the corner of a room, but so what. But anyway, a few minutes later, two players turned back up again to try and get me. And we'll pick it up just as they arrive back. That's him back again. That's him back again. That sucks. And that guy's smug cackle definitely didn't wind me up like you wouldn't believe when that happened. Now, I really like Scum. I'm baffled by that particular feature that we've just seen there. Now, I've shown that firefight for two reasons. It shows the player lag, that's still an issue. If you watch that first guy, he goes down the stairs and then he appears back in the room in the corner. You know, my shooting's a bit potato, but I was so flustered because at no point did I feel like I was actually shooting at the guy. I was kind of just blatting bullets anywhere, hoping he would appear in front of them, because in real time, he was disappearing, reappearing. He was in one corner, he was down the stairs, he was back. It was impossible. It was so hard to work out. But the thing that's most frustrating about that is that the guy that was playing kind of interference, if you like, was the guy that I'd killed in the first place. So he's died. We're at a military base right in the heart of the map, and he's died, and then he's come back to his mate. Either he's paid to spawn on his mate or he's paid to spawn in the same square using fame points, right? You can pay 50 fame points to choose the square that you spawn, or you can pay 100 fame points to spawn on your friend. Now, that in a survival game seems kind of crazy to me. I can't quite get my head around it. I understand the benefits of spawning near your friend in terms of wanting to play together. Say your friend's been playing for 3 hours and then you can spawn in and you can join him in a way. There's some real benefits to that, you know. It's something that DayZ has always been accused of not being good at. However, if you've just died, being able to choose the square where you spawn and choose the person you spawn next to, it just baffles me, you know. You're shooting against two people, you kill one, and then a few minutes later they're back, both of them together. They've got the two people advantage. One of them can run interference. His mate's giving him a pistol so he can try and hit me and hurt me. He knocks a little bit of health off me, and then his mate that was still alive finishes me off, you know. I just find that a crazy, crazy mechanic for a survival game. I'm baffled they put it in. I understand that it's cool to be able to play with your mates and stuff, but in a survival game where the idea is to survive, to be able to die, run back, get some gear off your mate, and then carry on trying to kill the guy that just killed you, that's COD, isn't it? That's COD, that's Battlefield, that respawn and have another go, you know. Survival games shouldn't have that. Surely. I know I'm saying that passionately, but I'm absolutely baffled by that decision. It's one of the things that's wrong with Scum in a way, is that there's very little character progression. The map is lovely, it's really well designed, but the fact that you spawn randomly anywhere means that you're always spawning within a few minutes of a military base. There's either a tunnel or the airbase or the factory or the dam or something, but you're always right near a military base. It's very, very quick. The time to loot is quick. Some people will like that. The issue is that there's a very much a lack of character progression when you're dead. When you're dead, you lose a few things, but you spawn right next to somewhere else that has it. You know, it's not got so much depth to the character, and so when you die, you don't care really. But when you die in this circumstance, it's a real kick in the teeth. You know, you've got two. I was trying to talk to them. I didn't even want to shoot. You know, and then they come up, and I end up having to shoot. I kill one. And then he comes back and starts injuring me, playing interference, relaying to his mate where I am. You know, we've got all these realistic, like, hardcore features like a third-person angle that removes third-person peeking, and yet when you die you can spawn on your mate, and also you can team up with him, so his name floats above his head, and for him your name floats above yours, so they can always recognise each other. They've got a name above their head. I haven't, and I'm on my own, and if I kill one they can come back and have another go, you know. I just find that really the opposite of a hardcore survival game, which seems to be the way Scum wants to go. We've got really realistic metabolism features, amazing features with regards to crafting and survival, and it's really got the nucleus of an amazing game, but all these hardcore features don't tally with floating names above heads and squad mates that can spawn on each other, you know. I just find that dynamic crazy. They're just trying to please everybody, and it's what you, as a lone wolf, what you're meant to do really. If you see two players, don't ever shoot, just run away, you know. That's probably your best bet, or actually be good at the game like I'm not and kill them both. Of course you could do that. But if you kill one and the other retreats, what happened there? I killed one, the other retreated into the big building the other side and waited for his mate, right? It hadn't even occurred to me that that feature was a thing, you know. I hadn't thought about it in the tactics, but the reality is if you kill one of two and the other one backs away, you have to sprint after him like an idiot. You can't leave it because he's coming back with his friend, you know. Don't wait. He's not retreating because he wants to save his gear. He's retreating so his mate can meet him, and then they can come back as a two and kill me, you know. You've got to chase after the second one. If someone attacks you and there's two and you kill one, you've not done anything, you've not saved yourself, you've not made it one-on-one. He can just retreat and make it two-on-one again, you know. You've got to just chase, and in a survival game, I just don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I've talked a lot about that. Apologies. I want to talk a bit more about this camera technology that they're using with regards to making people render and not, and an example of what happens in DayZ with a similar kind of bug. I know it's a lot of talking, but I think it's really worth exploring, and I think it's good feedback as well, maybe. Hope you like this so far, guys. Sorry about the waffle. Let's move on to the next clip. So we've got a few clips to go through. First of all, I want to show you something from my last video. Now, bear in mind I'm in first person here. I stay in first person mode as I breach this door. But let me just show you this clip in first person first and show you what I'm trying to talk about, okay? So just as I open this door here, and I'll keep quiet. We could actually spend several minutes dissecting that one clip, because people are popping in and out all over the place there. Like, they come in, they come out. You see some floating guns just as I open the door here. You see some floating guns and no players rendered. And you can see the floating guns there. But watch this guy on the right. Just do it once. Watch that guy on the right. He just vanished. And I think he's the guy that shoots me. Now, I can see that box. I'm in first person mode. The box that he's running past, I can see it. The guy vanishes. The game is deciding that I shouldn't be able to see that player. It's deciding that he's invisible for me, and the guy vanishes, and that's what's happening with the others, you know. It's still doing this thing where it's deciding whether I should see a player or not, but I'm in first-person mode, you know. There's no awareness, there's no camouflage, there's no feature that should make those guys invisible there, you know. They're all blatantly in view. I'm standing a few meters away from them. I think there's maybe some bugs. It's early access, of course. There may be some bugs with this, but I genuinely am fearful that latency on the server combined with this feature where the game decides if you should see someone or not is a big gamble. So what I want to do is show you what I'm talking about with regards to what happens in DayZ and the way their graphical render works, and then we'll talk about how it is in Scum with a very, very simple example. Bear with me, guys. Let's move on to just DayZ for 1 sec. Now, in this clip, I was describing it to my Twitch chat live, so I'm going to leave how I described it to my Twitch chat just kind of off the cuff in. So my voice you'll hear in a second isn't narration, it's just me talking in the game while I was playing DayZ. That's rendering now. Oh, no! See this bug here? The bug I'm getting there with that barn not rendering feels exactly like one of the bugs that happens in Scum, but with players. And it's to do with the way that things are rendered in the game. I think in Scum, a physical player is only rendered when the game thinks you can see it. And that's partly because of the mechanic they've added in with the third person and camouflage. In DayZ, some of the buildings are only rendered in when the game thinks you can see it, exactly because it saves on rendering, it saves on power, it makes it easier. And so in DayZ you get occasional bugs where a building like that barn through the door goes invisible, but in Scum the bug you get is that a player goes invisible. And that's substantially more serious, because if you can't see a player that's actually there, you could end up dead. So that what I'm seeing right here is what exactly I see in Scum, but with physical players. It's really common, it's just how renderers work, you know. But normally they render certain things and other things are permanently rendered. So if there's a player standing outside this room, like he was in that corner over there but on the far side of the wall, just because I can't see him and there's a wall in the way, my graphical render is still rendering that guy because it's a player and it's an essential item that must be rendered, if you like. So the player still renders even if the wall is in the way. Whereas the barn that's the other side there, that's not essential. It's not going to kill me. The barn is only rendered when the game thinks it can see me, and occasionally there's some mistakes like this, right? It happens in lots of games, it's really common. But where it's a problem is that in Scum it can get you killed, and the thing that's being rendered or not is the thing that will want to shoot you in the face, you know? I think that's a bit of an issue. Right, we're back to narrator me now. I think my kind of jumbled together explanation there of what was going on kind of works. I hope that makes sense, but a lot of games render certain things as non-vital. The graphical render chooses them as non-vital to save frames, you know, to give you better frames. If you're inside a building, lots of things outside can't be seen, so they're not rendered. Why would they be rendered? You know, that makes sense. It seems like a similar technique is used with players, and that is enforced with the third-person camera technique and some clever code to make you not see players. But if you just stay in first person, it still does it. If you never left third person mode and you stayed in first person, the game is still trying to work out whether you should see another player or not, which means that when they're behind a wall, they're not being rendered for you. They're not permanently rendered as like something essential. And I think that's why we're seeing floating guns, you know. The devs have said the floating guns thing is a bug and they're going to fix it. But the reason that's a thing is that the guns are on the player's back. They're permanently being rendered, they're loot, so it's loot that you can see. Loot that's in someone's backpack is not the same, it's attached to the player. But I think the guns are rendering on the back because they're being permanently rendered by the graphical renderer, whereas the player is being not rendered because you can't see them. So the floating guns are a byproduct of that technique, you know. That's a bug. They're probably going to make it so the guns on the back are associated with the player so they won't render still. But that's a symptom of this technique, right? It's just a highlight of, I think, what's going on. The player is not rendering, so they're not permanently in the map. So if you stay in first person all the time, the game is still going to decide whether you should see that person or not. You're in first person, right? They have got an awareness feature in the game where I'll show you a little bit from the Scum video to kind of explain it while I'm talking. So if you have high awareness, you can see people in camouflage better if they're in cover, if they're in long grass, as you see here. The left-hand side, the guy can see him. If he's in focus mode in the middle, the guy can see him, but on the right-hand side, he can't yet, and then he pops in. Now, that is the engine or the renderer deciding whether you should see the player or not based on some parameters, some stats, if you like. But it still means that the player is not being rendered the whole time, and the game is then choosing when to render and when not. And so when they're behind a wall, it's choosing not to, and then when you can see them, it's choosing to. Modern games get more impressive and more features all the time, but latency on multiplayer games has not improved in the same way. If you think about online games for the last 15 years, 10 years, whatever, there's been improvements in so many ways in terms of what can be done, how many people in a map, how big the map can be, stuff going on, graphics. But latency is still a problem, right? You're still playing the game from the UK, connecting to a server in Germany, and there's somebody in Russia, and there's somebody in America, and there's somebody wherever. And that latency is always going to be a thing. But I feel like this technique for the renderer and the technique for the third person and the awareness and the camouflage is amplifying the issue with latency. You know, I hope they can get it better, but I would really like to beg the devs, please, can we have a first person only mode where this technique is not used, you know, where the player is permanently rendered and you can see them because you're in first person mode. So if you see somebody's shoulder, you should see them. They're not just popping into view when the game decides you can see enough of them and then they're popping into view. It would be great to get that first person mode where players rendered in all the time. Obviously this game's early access, it's only just come out. They're in a little bit of a bubble right now. A lot of people are really in love with the game. They're liking a lot of the things that it does, and it's been quite popular. I'm not really going to start sharing Steam stats. It's going down in popularity a little bit, but it's just come out, and it'll go up, it'll go down. If they improve the player lag, it'll go up a lot. You know, I think there's a nucleus of a really good game here, as I say. However, I am really worried about this technique for rendering players, whether they get the player lag or the server performance improved or not. Latency is a thing, and it doesn't go away. There isn't an open world game with lots of players having shootouts and PvP and so on. There isn't an open world game that doesn't have latency. Every game has it. There's always a little bit of Pika's advantage. DayZ's had it a lot in the past. It's a lot better now than it was. Escape from Tarkov has had lots of issues. PUBG has had issues. Ark has had issues. Both of the latter are on the same engine as Scum. Even when you improve it, it's still there a little bit. But in Scum, it's magnified by the fact that the player isn't rendered until the game tells you you can see it. And so if you've got latency and Pika's advantage and so on, every game has it a little, but in this game the person's going to be invisible until it decides that's not happening anymore, you know. I really worry that this particular feature is going to be a very big problem for the game in the long run. I know that's maybe negative, but that's just the way I feel as a player of the game. I really hope they can make it work. I would really love to play a version of Scum where there is none of this and there is no trickery and the game isn't deciding when I should see someone or not. I'm quite happy to stay in first person. I'm not really interested in third person peeking, but I am interested in playing a game where people don't go invisible and reappear, peek a corner, but I don't see them straight away. They shoot their gun and then I see them, you know. I think latency is going to cause severe issues with this rendering technique for players. Players are essential in the game. They should always be rendered. That's just my view. Others may differ. I think the third-person peeking technique is a novel thing that they've done, but the side effect of it is that even in first person there are issues, and I'm not sure personally whether they're going to go away. I hope they do. I hope to make more videos on Scum, but I'm a player of games more than I am a YouTuber, right? If I'm having fun, I can make videos of that fun, you know? All I'd like to do is have fun and make videos. My first 3 Scum videos, they're not how to craft a spear, how to make a base, how to do this. That's great. Other YouTubers do that. What I do is have fun in games and relay it to you guys and try and make some kind of form of entertainment out of it. If I'm not having fun in the game, then I'll take a break, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm going to wait for a significant update to the player lag, and then I'll try again. I really hope Scum has got something. I think it will improve, but I really am concerned about this feature, like I've just talked through at great length. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I know it's a long one, but I think there's some really good feedback in there in terms of what's going on, possibly. I'm only a layman. That's my take on it. Thanks a lot for watching the video, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.